Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Final Trade. So, for the last few weeks, WotC has been dumping Innistrad Remastered collector boxes on Amazon, and the price has been about $260 as the headline price. And if you take 6% off of that, if you have a Prime credit card and you select slow shipping for an additional 1% back, you can get them for around $245, so 6% off. And I'll have an affiliate link down below to that if you want to buy. So, looking out there on TCG Player today, yeah, the 245 on Amazon is, $10, $15 below what TCG Player is. A few weeks ago, it was a lot further below what TCG Player is, but the price has come down on TCG Player. And as we like to joke, history doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. And I actually had a realization about a week ago that there was another product in the history of Magic that looked a lot like this. And could we make a comparison to it? Now, these kind of comparisons, there are always going to be some problems with them. But if you can at least come up with a comparison that has the most similarities, maybe you can have better than normal confidence in a bet that you make based on those comparisons. And so what would that product be? Well, yes, last year's remastered set, Ravnica Remastered collector boxes. What was the history on those? So they came out, the price went down a little bit, not too bad, because pretty quickly people realized how common the serialized cards were, which allowed them to directly back out how many boxes had been printed. And so they didn't crash too badly, and they hadn't run up to what 380, yeah, 380 that Innistrad Remastered ran up to before it released. So Ravnica Remastered didn't have such a high before release, and so the crash was not as dramatic. But what did WotC do with Ravnica Remastered boxes last year? They put them on Amazon at $260 so that after your 6% cash back from your Prime credit card and your slow shipping, you would get them at $244. Exactly like what is happening with Innistrad Remastered today. And I looked back in my records, and my average buy price for Ravnica Remastered collector boxes last year is $244. So I guess I got most or all of them. It may have been one of those products where they were pre-dumping, or they were at least selling at a very favorable price before release. I don't remember exactly. I could go back and look at the exact dates that I bought on. But the important part was my average price was $244 for Ravnica Remastered last year. And I was looking out there and I was seeing these Innistrad Remastered collector boxes being dumped by WotC on Amazon for $244. And I thought, well, what did Ravnica Remastered do in the last year? Well, if we look out there today, what do we see? Oh man, $370. So it's up 50% in 1 year. 50% return in 1 year. Now, like I said, history doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. And this is one of those situations where you look at the similarities between the two products, okay? They're both remastered sets. Yes, Ravnica was going to be a more loved remastered set than Innistrad. But they're both remastered sets. They're both released in the January time slot in successive years. They both contain at least some serialized cards. In reality, Innistrad Remastered contains a lot fewer serialized cards. Now, I haven't actually looked for anyone doing an analysis on estimating how many boxes were printed based on any type of sampling of pulling multiple serialized cards. How sure you were of that kind of analysis would be very difficult. You'd have to find one person who pulled, say, 4 or 5 copies of the serialized Edgar Markov, and there just may not be anyone who has. But both remastered sets, both in the January time slot, both get dumped on Amazon heavily below market at the same exact price. There will be a lot of other differences between these products, but as far as finding two products that have a heck of a lot of similarities, I'd say this is about as good as we can expect to get. And do I expect that Innistrad Remastered collector boxes will be 50% higher 1 year from today? No. But if I were to put brackets around where I thought the price would be, I'd say maybe 10% lower than Ravnica is today to maybe 30% higher. That's kind of a range where I would feel confident to place a bet of where it might be a year from now. Because as we've taken further and further looks at the sales prices of actual completed transactions for the Edgar Markov serialized card, we see that it's really holding value. It's doing a good job. So it's not crashing like the early Brothers War artifact schematic serialized cards did. So Edgar Markov serialized is holding up in the market, and we'll see how many boxes WotC has that it can push out through Amazon and just how it goes. But it's interesting that this is such a similar case down to the exact price that WotC is dumping them at on Amazon. So maybe you think about buying some. There's an affiliate link down below. Thanks to everyone who makes this content possible, especially my very generous supporters on Patreon. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade.